and entertainment purposes only. Top of the morning, Bay, with Good Morning Bay.
Get to know about the traffic on your way and what's news around the world today.
Some wisdom skills along the way.
Oh, and a song to hum along with and sway.
Get your perfect entertaining start to the day.
At 9 a.m. every weekday morning with
Mahima's
Good Morning Bay.
Good morning, Bay. आप सभी अहमद अफसे एक प्यार भरा नमस्ते.
Namaskar.
वणक्कम.
Namaskara.
खुश आमदीद.
Assalamu alaikum.
सत श्री अकाल.
Meekandariki Vandanamu.
जय स्वामी नारायण.
Jai Shri Krishna.
जय जिनेंद्र.
हमारे इस्माइली भाई बंधुओं को बोलते याली मदद.
मलाली मतलब बोलते हैं सारे फीजी मतलब बोलेंगे नीसा बुला बरजान. हम आ गए हैं आपके प्यारे महिमा के द्वारा. मैं सिर्फ फालतू बाबा.
And of course myself Faltu Rani लेकर आपके लिए एक और drive time that's going to make it totally exciting and totally मस्तानी बंद जाने.
Alright बरजान, a quick look at what's happening on the roads for you guys. रास्ते का हाल लीजिएगा आपके लिए पेश है Total Sustenance.
It's time for the Bandu Traffic Update. Call us from wherever you are at 408-912-2479.
Brazil, a bunch of traffic for you guys everywhere. Probably the start of the week a little bit later. Monday को कोई नहीं गया, लेकिन Tuesday को लगता है सब लोग जा रहे हैं वहाँ पे on the roads. A severe traffic alert has been announced and emergency road work is going on 101 southbound ramp near 85 Banjam. Watch out for that. The bottleneck is all the way backed up onto the 101 area for sure. Speaking of backed up traffic, there's actually an accident which is causing a backup on 80 westbound east of Fremont Street in San Francisco. The situation looks very bad there, as in it's totally backed up all the way halfway through, near almost close to Treasure Island, Manajan. And fog advisory in effect on 101 north and southbound and Golden Gate. You know, it's not very sunny. This fog has set in already. So we see all those things happening over here on South Bay as well. Manajan, a traffic alert of 101 northbound south of Kehoe Avenue in San Mateo is slowing down traffic over there. And an accident on 680 southbound is slowing traffic near Automall Parkway, getting onto the ramp, so watch out for that. Down south towards Milpitas, a vehicle fire on 680 southbound north of Berrios Road in San Jose. The left lane is affected, so probably expect delays if you're going to be taking that route right now. That was a traffic update. Weather-wise, dekha jaye to of course, Berrios is not as hot as what it was a couple of days ago. We're going to be in the upper 70s, 77, 78 in that range, but we have some clouds in the air. They'll burn off by 1 o'clock Banjam, and probably a much cooler thing. But of course, there is a warning said that there might be spikes in temperature, so watch out for that for sure. That was your traffic update. A quick look at what's happening with the news. Faltani, do we have the news ready for our bandus?
Yes, Altu Baba.
Alright, bandus, so here you go. This is the news updates coming for you guys from the news desk of Media Mahima.
Well, let's start with local news, Bandajan. The California new virus rules are in place. California Department of Public Health has updated its coronavirus rules for public schools. The new rules apply recommendations from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention with some modifications. All teachers and students must wear masks while indoors, but they don't have to stay at least 3 feet away from each other. The rule's stated goal is to make sure as many students can attend full-time in-person instruction as possible. State officials worried some schools would have had trouble accommodating all of these students with the physical distancing rule, so they got rid of it in exchange for everyone wearing a mask. Initially, the state said school districts should send students home if they refuse to wear a mask, but Monday evening, the department posted a tweet saying it would clarify its rules so that school districts could make their own decisions about enforcing mask rules. Lunch is supposed to be outside. They should still enforce physical distancing. They should limit visitors, non-essential visitors, including volunteers who are not fully vaccinated. And vaccines are encouraged but not required for schools. And if they are exposed to the virus, they don't have to stay home for 10 days to quarantine. They can continue to attend class if they don't have symptoms and if they keep wearing a mask and are tested twice a week for 10 days. But they cannot participate in sports and other extracurricular activities during that period is what they're saying. In other local news, Punjab Governor Gavin Newsom signs a $100 billion state budget, and he hailed his signing of the state budget as saying California roars back. Newsom signed SB 129, the legislation that reflects the majority of the $100 billion state budget agreement for 21-22 and includes the largest recovery plan in state history, according to the statement. And what is included in this? Some elements of this particular budget? Well, stimulus checks. Nearly 2 out of every 3 Californians will receive a stimulus check of at least $600. Qualified families with children will receive an additional $600. Renter assistance provides $5.2 billion to help low-income renters and landlords, covering 100% of back rent and all prospective rent for several months into the future. Small Business Relief invests another $1.5 billion for a total of $4 billion in direct grants to California small businesses to help owners rehire workers that were displaced by the pandemic. Homelessness, it invests about $12 billion to address homelessness crisis, and this is going to be used over a two-year period. School funding, it calls for universal pre-kindergarten, establishes college savings accounts for 3.7 million low-income children, and increases in state tuition slots for Californians who want to attend CSU or UC campus. Wildfires, invest $2 billion to bolster wildfire resilience, funds for new equipment, and water, invests about $5.1 billion over 4 years in drought support, water supply, and natural habitat restoration projects. So that's really great news, especially for students who are looking to get into the UCs and students who are looking to get into the CSUs. This is amazing news because they are encouraging universities, local universities, to be able to take in more local students as opposed to restricting it and getting more international students and making sure that they're not losing money. You remember that South Bay School, Altubaba, that track coach who was accused of molesting female athletes? A former track coach who was accused by numerous women of molesting them when they were as high school athletes is going to stand trial. A judge on Monday made the ruling following more than a week of testimony in Chioke Robinson's case. More than half a dozen women during testimony recounted what they claim was abused by Robinson. From the very beginning, the defendant would groom these girls, Deputy District Attorney Ann Siri said. He groomed them, manipulated them, controlled them, and he ruined them. So Siri went on to say Robinson was a predator and other girls tried to speak up and he always got away with it. So he is going to be sentenced. City of Santa Clara has declared a local emergency for the drought conditions, Bindajan. On Tuesday, the City Council is poised to ratify the emergency proclamation, which asks residents to conserve water in line with directives from the Santa Clara Valley Water District. This proclamation, called for by City Manager Deanna Santana, also requires the city to move into stage 2 of its water shortage contingency plan. Once implemented, the city will enforce watering use restrictions such as limiting outdoor watering to a maximum of 3 days a week. Odd-numbered addresses and sites with no addresses can water Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and even numbers can do Tuesdays, Fridays, Sundays, etc. And search teams, an East Bay man who was supposed to go out for a 45-minute run on a scorching hot day over the weekend has still not returned home. An army of volunteers, about 100 search and rescue personnel, are looking for 37-year-old Philip Krachik, who is believed to be somewhere in Pleasanton Ridge Regional Park. Search and rescue teams have fanned out across this park looking for the father of two from Berkeley who went running in an area that has deep canyons, steep trails, and minimal shade. In news from across the United States, Texas Democratic lawmakers are actually fleeing the state. Yes, they're fleeing Texas as part of an orchestrated move to derail their Republican colleagues' efforts to pass new voting restrictions and other conservative measures during a special legislative session. Calling from an airplane headed to Washington, D.C. on Monday afternoon, Texas Rep. Alex Dominguez told Reuters that nearly everyone in the House of Reps 67-member Democratic caucus had fled the state. This exodus is intended to deny the legislature the quorum needed to approve any of the measures on Republican Governor Greg Abbott's special session agenda, including bills restricting on abortion access and blocking transgender students from competing in athletics that correspond with gender identity.
Well, Banjana, I read a very interesting article yesterday about this thing, how they're doing this. If you notice, there's a strong connection to the efforts of Trump when he was in office.
Right.
So now, wherever they have the GOP majorities, where they're trying to move this matter and limit, and it actually doesn't happen. It's like setting precedents for other states to follow.
Right.
Is what they're doing on there, Manajan. So again, though it is not like the minority does not vote there much, right?
Yeah.
They still want to set it up as that precedence, and they see it like a game plan what they're doing to restrict people from voting.
Yeah.
It's totally anti-democratic.
Yes, it is completely anti-democratic, and I cannot believe that this is the case with, one needs to really rethink the Republican Party at this particular point in time. Regardless, U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said on Tuesday that he reserves the right to bring voting legislation back to the Senate floor after Republicans voted to block lawmakers from debating the issue last month. The bottom line is this: Democrats will not stop fighting to protect voting rights and defend our democracy. The vote in June was the opening gun, not the finish line, Schumer said in a floor speech. President Joe Biden is visiting Philadelphia to push for the stalled voting rights measure. He, under pressure from U.S. civil rights leaders, travels to Philadelphia on Tuesday to issue a strong appeal for the congressional passage of sweeping Democratic-backed voting rights legislation, which has stalled among Republican opposition. And U.S. First Lady is going to be traveling to Japan for the Olympics, says the White House. And in news from across the world, Bandhujan, if you want to catch up on news from India and everything, you can go to MediaMahima.com. Again, MediaMahima.com is the website. And if you want to catch up on all the news with regard to how Prime Minister Narendra Modi combines humor with sincerity in his interactions with ministers, and how the Uttarakhand government has cancelled the Kanwar Yatra in view of the COVID situation, and how Google has bad news for Gmail users. You can go to MediaMahima.com. That's all we have time for on this morning's Good Morning Bay. We'll be back tonight at 5 on the Pam Pam Show. Have yourselves a terrific Tuesday. Music for the Jan, for the best in entertainment and the best in music and the hottest tracks.